Welcome to the August 4th, 2017 edition of Colorado Inside Out Postgame, a special web exclusive production here on Channel 12. Let's get a quick take on New Jersey Senator Cory Booker introducing a bill on Tuesday that would ultimately decriminalize marijuana at the federal level, while incentivizing states to change their marijuana laws. Retroactively expunging federal possession charges and withholding funding from states with disproportionate arrests of minorities were among the many aspects of, quote, the social justice bill. Patty Cahoon from Westward. Now, I realize that with Cory Booker, even though introducing this bill, it's probably going to go nowhere. But there's now a majority of states in the country that have some form of legalized marijuana. Do you think there's going to be some momentum at the federal level, perhaps in 2 years?
Well, depending on who's reelected. I mean, right now we still have Jeff Sessions threatening the states that have legalized marijuana, sort of, but there haven't been a lot of moves made yet. It's going to depend, I think, much on what happens in California and how crazy that is when the first sales are made there. But if you look at Colorado, the relatively few problems from legalizing marijuana. Other states are looking at it. You've got 30 states that have legalized medical marijuana. You've got others looking at recreational marijuana. If you look at the polls, certainly the vast majority of Americans favor medical marijuana, and that's growing as people get older because senior citizens are the biggest growing group of cannabis consumers. A lot of them are using it for pain instead of opioids. That is a greater good. So as you see how things are shifting, and as that shifts, you know, the majority are in favor of decriminalizing it altogether. That will happen someday. It's not going to happen with this bill.
David Kopel from the Independence Institute and DU Law School. Can anything close to, even if it's not full legalization, even just taking it off of the Schedule 1 of drugs, can that happen with Republicans having the House and the Senate?
Well, putting that aside, it can't happen with Cory Booker. Congress people are, by each other, known as either show horses or workhorses. Cory Booker is a show horse. He's running for president next cycle. He's all talk, very little accomplishment, and it's still interesting because he's also a weather vane. So whatever the conventional wisdom is of the activist base of the Democratic Party, Cory Booker will vote that way, regardless of when, with no concern about whether that contradicted what he thought 10 minutes ago, if the base changes. So the fact that he's doing this does indicate something about political developments, you know, and the mood on the issue. I think the bill is right to say we're just going to repeal the federal laws against it because there was never, in my view, a legitimate constitutional basis for Congress to be acting on that in the first place. It should be a state matter, the possession or sale of something inside a single state. But he can't get off this addiction to coercive federal power. And the federal government shouldn't be giving grants to states anyway. The federal government's broken, borrowing the money from China and driving this country to ruin with debt. So we shouldn't have these federal grants in the first place, and we shouldn't be using them to coerce state policy. States should make their own laws about that based on the wishes of the people who live there.
Eric Sonderman, political analyst. We've seen some pretty rapid change over the last, I want to say, 20, maybe 30 years of some social issues that we thought were not going to go anywhere in a generation. We saw, you know, Colorado went from passing Amendment 2 in 1992, within 25 years, gay marriage is legal. Now, I realize that changed because of a national court issue, but still, that was really fast. Do you think the generation that we're living in right now is going to see marijuana legal at the federal level?
Yes. I mean, I think every tide is moving that direction. The question, David posed a couple good points. I was going to not necessarily end up where David ended up, but start where David started, which is David called Cory Booker a weather vane. Not exactly inaccurate. I just call him a very ambitious. There is no more ambitious politician in this country than Cory Booker. And the fact that he didn't do this innocently, after much deliberation, thought that this was an issue to grab a hold of and an issue to ride, tells you something about where the tide is, particularly within the Democratic Party, on this particular issue. And it's one of these wraparound issues, Dominic, because you get the sort of mainstream of the Democratic Party, and then you get a huge flank of the libertarian right, which was very active when Colorado did its marijuana amendment, et cetera. So the tide is definitely in this direction. The question, and we won't know the answer to this question for a decade or 2 decades, is, is the tide wise in terms of, does this have corollary effects on youth usage, et cetera, et cetera. But, wisdom is one issue. Politics is a different issue, and the only reason it won't become federal law within our lifetimes and well before that would be if somehow the feds decide to back off of this, per David's point, and allow this to be regulated and legalized or not on a state-by-state issue. But the feds aren't exactly in the business of backing off.
Noelle Phillips, public safety reporter with the Denver Post, rounds out the panel today. So when we see this from New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, we've show horse, weather vane, a variety of titles, certainly going to get some headlines. But in Colorado, it's a big issue. We're out front first. Do you think we're going to see maybe Senator Bennett, even Senator Gardner, at least want to chime in on the issue?
I could see them chiming in on it. This bill that Booker filed had 2 parts: decriminalizing marijuana, but a huge social justice impact. That might be what holds some supporters back. But Booker's tackling a big issue with marijuana, and when you look at it time and time again, and survey after survey and study and analysis, there's a racial disparity in marijuana arrests. 2016 NPR report I found, the Colorado Health Department survey, there was not a huge racial difference in who smokes pot when it comes to youth, but the arrest rate for white 10 to 17-year-olds dropped 10% between 2012 and 2014, and it rose 20% for Latino youth and 50% for Black youth. And a study in New York last year found that Blacks and Latinos were arrested like 85% more of the time. So there's a big social justice piece of this, which could slow this, this bill doesn't go anywhere. But I would be interested to hear what our senators have to say, since they do represent a state where it's legalized.
That is all the time we have for Colorado Inside Out postgame this week. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think. For everyone here at CPT12.org, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for watching.